Welcome to Everything You Need to Know Before You Visit Hong Kong. My name is Claire Hawkins. I'm a traveling musician and digital nomad, and I just spent some time in Hong Kong. It was my very first visit. I had an incredible experience, and I learned a lot. So in this video, I'm going to share with you everything that I wish I knew, and some things that I did already know coming into this fantastic place. I've split up the video into a few categories, and this first one is geography and transportation. The first thing to know is that Hong Kong is huge. It is a big, big city. There are lots of people, lots of traffic, lots of excitement going on at all times. Hong Kong is split up into three main sections. There is Hong Kong Island, which is the south side, and then across the harbor from that is Kowloon, and then anything beyond that is called the New Territories. Hong Kong is generally very walkable. However, it is, like I said, huge. So you're definitely going to want to get to know the local transportation. The MTR is the local metro system, and it's really fantastic. It's clean, it runs efficiently, it's on time, there are lots of trains, and it goes all the way across Hong Kong. To use the MTR, you are going to need an octopus card. This is their Metro card or their Oyster card if you spent time in London. But the cool thing about it is that it's not just for the Metro. You can also use it in certain shops like a 7-Eleven, and it'll even allow you to skip the line in some locations. For instance, when I visited the Victoria Peak tram, I had a ticket because I was paying with my octopus card, and I didn't have to wait in the ticket line. So it's a really, really fantastic thing, and you can get it in the airport. There are kiosks or machines there where you can buy it super quick, super easy, and then you're set for your whole trip. You can refill your octopus card in the MTR stations. I did notice that most of the machines seem to be cash only. I don't know if that was just the stations that I was in or if that's true across the city, but prepare to have cash on you. For times when you don't want to take the Metro, Uber is readily available and pretty affordable, at least compared to New York City, where I'm from. It's also important to know that cars drive on the left side in Hong Kong, like in Ireland or the UK. So if you're from a place where cars drive on the right side, be very careful crossing the street. Moving on to the next category, we have food and drink. Hong Kong is such an incredible food destination. I think it was the aspect I was most excited about coming to Hong Kong. A couple things to know about restaurants in Hong Kong. There isn't really a tipping culture, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. Also, good to know, sometimes the bathrooms in restaurants might not have toilet paper. I think just generally traveling in this part of the world, always good to have some tissues on you, just in case. Some restaurants do family style seating, so be prepared to potentially share a table with another party. At the end of a meal, to pay, most often you will have to get up and walk to the counter and pay there. If you're from the United States like myself, you might be used to people bringing you the bill and then bringing you your change, but in most cases, you are gonna have to get up to pay on the way out. There is so much incredible food that you have to try in Hong Kong, but here are a few honorable mentions. Definitely make sure you get dim sum. I highly recommend finding a local bakery to try egg tarts and pineapple buns, which sound like they'd have pineapple in them, but they don't. There are lots of delicious variations of noodle soups, but I would say definitely try wonton noodles while you're in Hong Kong. Now that you know how to get around and you know what you're eating, let's talk about the sights to see in Hong Kong. One of the most famous things to see in Hong Kong is the nightly light show, Symphony of Light, which happens every single night at 8 p.m. Now, I made a little bit of a tourist mistake. I tried to watch the light show from the Hong Kong Island side of the waterfront. You definitely want to watch it from the Kowloon side. I recommend checking out the Avenue of Stars and watching it from there. You can see it from the Hong Kong Island side, but I'm told I did not get the best version of it. I definitely recommend a full day on Hong Kong Island. You can get there on the MTR. You can also take the Star Ferry, which I unfortunately didn't get to do during my time there, but I hear it's a must. So I will definitely be doing that when I come back to Hong Kong. While you're on Hong Kong Island, I recommend starting your day at Victoria Peak. You want to take the Victoria Peak tram because it is such an incredible experience. I have a whole video about Hong Kong Island. I'll make sure to link that so you all can check that out. But I definitely also recommend visiting Victoria Prison and of course the Central Mid-Levels escalators. Your itinerary in Hong Kong will of course depend on how much time you have there, but if you can dedicate a whole day to Lantau Island, I really recommend that as well. There is a very, very long wait to get on the cable car. Even if you buy your ticket in advance, you can check out my video about that experience, but it is so, so worth it. I think if you go on a weekday, hopefully the line is a little shorter. I ended up waiting over an hour, but like I said, The experience was so incredible. After the cable car journey, you get to the beautiful big Buddha. You climb up these incredible steps. It's a really cool experience. I also visited the Wisdom Path, which was about a 15-minute walk from the big Buddha statue. Honestly, I think that that is something that you can skip, but it was cool to see and the scenery is beautiful. Make sure that you don't miss spending some time on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong. The neighborhood of Mong Kok is busy and beautiful and very local. There are several very cool markets to check out in Hong Kong, and two that I visited on the Kowloon side of Hong Kong were the Ladies Market, which has more souvenirs and clothing, and then the Temple Street Night Market, which also has a food section. Because Hong Kong is so large, I do recommend splitting up your days based on neighborhood, and you'll have a much more relaxed experience across the board. Lastly, there are 2 day trips from Hong Kong that I highly recommend if you have enough time. The first was to Macau. This is a separate SAR of China, a very, very cool place to visit. And then, of course, I had to visit Hong Kong Disneyland. This was also a very fun experience. I actually ran a 10K race while I was there through the park. That was really, really fun. I'll make sure to link both of those vlogs so you can check them out, but both are really worth doing, just in very different ways. For the last category of this video, I want to talk about general culture in Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong was a British colony for so long, you will see a lot of Western influence, but Hong Kong also really has its own culture, and I think that it is so vivid everywhere you are in Hong Kong. The local language is Cantonese, not Mandarin. However, English is very widely spoken there as well. I do, of course, always recommend learning a few words in the local language just out of respect. Even if all you learn is hello and thank you, you'll be good. English is pretty easy to get by with in Hong Kong. Hong Kong, of course, has its own currency, that is the Hong Kong dollar. Most places seem to be cash-based, so I would definitely recommend always having cash on you, even if many places do take card. Not everywhere does. The climate in Hong Kong is hot and it is humid, so you want to dress accordingly. However, I noticed more than anywhere else I've ever been that the AC is blasting everywhere you go. So you want to dress for warm weather outside, but you might also want to bring a sweater if you're going inside because that AC is cold. One thing that I had heard before arriving in Hong Kong is that the locals have a reputation for being kind of rude. Now, honestly, that was not my experience. Everyone that I talked to was very kind. I do think there are a few cultural differences, you know, small talk or smiling at a stranger might be something that we do a bit more in the West than in Hong Kong, but no one that I talked to was rude. I think that that's an important distinction to make. Maybe in this vein, I will say personal space is not really a thing in Hong Kong. There was some bumping into people and even some shoving, so that wasn't my favorite thing, but again, it's a cultural difference. I also know that America has a reputation for being the biggest personal space culture, so everywhere I go seems to have a little bit less personal space, just from my perspective as an American. This next point might sound a little bit gross, but I do think it was kind of interesting to notice. There is a looser culture around, we'll say, bodily functions in Hong Kong than what I'm used to. What I mean by that is that there was a lot of coughing and sneezing and burping and spitting that just wasn't really covered up. And it happened enough times that I don't think it was like one random person. Definitely a lot of coughing up and spitting on the street. I was surprised by the burping. It's just, again, really interesting to travel and see things that are considered very differently in different parts of the world. All in all, the culture in Hong Kong is so rich. The food is amazing. The architecture is fascinating. The streets are crowded and full of energy. It's something that's really hard to explain or even capture in vlogs. I just had a really incredible time and it felt so different from what I know. And that is my favorite thing about travel. I truly had an incredible time in Hong Kong, and it's not a place that I ever knew I was gonna be lucky enough to get to visit growing up in New York City. It's just so, so special, and I highly, highly recommend a visit. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Have you been to Hong Kong? Are you from Hong Kong? What did I miss? Because there is so, so much about this beautiful, beautiful place. I can't wait to come back. I have many videos from my time in Hong Kong that you can find on my channel now. And after this, I'm headed to my next location. As always, I love to mention as a singer-songwriter that all the music that you hear in my vlogs is my original music. I've linked it in the video description. Please, to my Spotify users, make sure that you are following me on Spotify. I've linked my Instagram down below. There's plenty of ways to keep in touch. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
not foreign.